Coach O on with Jordy and T-Bob earlier today, and he talked about the how the team, remember, they started on Friday with two-a-days, Saturday two-a-days. Here was Coach O talking about how the team has looked so far in these early practices.
Very impressed with this freshman class. Obviously, it's a walkthrough, but the way they've learned, we've got some excellent players that's going to add to depth our team, and some of them are going to start. Really impressed with the progress of our offense with Steve Isming and Scott Linehan. Looks like we didn't skip a beat as far as going into the type of offense that we want to be in. And Scott's brought in some different stuff that we can use our best players at different positions. I think it's showing in the plays that we're running. Bowles has put in his defense. Our guys are taking his personality. It's going to be aggressive. Going to be attack. The guys are learning the defense. Overall, everything is going phenomenal.
So remember, these are walkthroughs. No helmets, no shoulder pads. They are using a ball, but they're not like running routes and throwing. It's more just walkthroughs right now. But the thing that had to jump out at you right there, as it did me, that was a 47-second clip. The thing that had to jump out was Ed Orgeron saying, offensively, we haven't missed a beat. And actually, Scott Linehan has added things to our offense that we didn't do a year ago. That's exciting because one of the giant questions everyone's had, not only at LSU, but in all of college football as it pertains to LSU is, you lose Burrow and Brady, what does that mean for the reigning national champions offense? Is LSU going to regress to what they were, or can they maintain not that level, 60 touchdowns and 5,000 yards, but can they maintain this elite level of offense? That was very encouraging to hear from Ed Orgeron. Now, the guys asked him about freshmen, and every time we go out to practice, when we're allowed to go to fall camp for the first time, everyone flocks to the quarterbacks and to the freshmen. Because everybody, you follow these guys' recruitment for so long, and then they're finally on campus, and you can always tell physically who looks like they belong immediately. Patrick Peterson, day one, looked like an SEC player. Terrence Tolliver, day one, looked like an SEC player. So, we've heard so much about Arik Gilbert. What about the other freshmen? How do they look in the uniform? Here's what Ed Orgeron said this morning.
Yeah, first of all, it was good to see Rick Gilbert. It was the first time he was out of practice yesterday. He was hurt all spring, so obviously it was a walkthrough, but he looked good in that number 2 out there. The guy that's impressed me is Keyshawn Butte.
Okay.
I mean, here's him and Coy Moore. These guys are outstanding young receivers. I think they're really gonna be good players, maybe perhaps great players here at LSU. The offensive line's looking good. Defensive line, Jabril Cox. I've got a bunch of guys out there I can name. This is a great class. B.J. Ojulari, Philip Webb, those guys are really looking good. Jacqueline Roy, he looks like an NFL player already.
Wow.
Jacoby Guillory, 337 pounds. Very impressive group.
So, a couple of things there. He mentioned the receivers and then mentioned defensive line. Hearing Keyshawn Butte as the first name out of his mouth is impressive. He also mentioned Coy Moore. I just don't know. I'm going to have to see how these freshman receivers get in the mix. I don't doubt that if LSU has big leads in some games that we're going to see those young guys get out on the field. But if you're talking about LSU Texas week 2, that is Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall, Racey McMath. That's who's going to be on the field. Like, it's hard for me to imagine week 2 we're going to see Coy Moore out there in a one-score game in the third quarter. Maybe, or Keyshawn Butte. Maybe, but I find that hard to believe. Let's say it won't happen or won't, out of necessity, those guys won't grow. And maybe as you get on the season, they will. I'm more interested in what he said about the defensive line. When Ed Orgeron says Jaquelin Roy looks NFL ready, when he talks about Jacoby and Guillory being 337 pounds, the reason that's significant is because the spots that are hardest for high school athletes to transition, even elite high school athletes, is on the interior line. Because if you're Jacoby and Guillory and you're 337 pounds playing at Alexandria Senior High, the offensive linemen that you're tossing around like a rag doll look like me. I was a high school offensive lineman at 6 foot 230. Going up against a guy that's 6'4", 337, no shot. You know what I mean? Flip it around. Cardell Thomas, who's a 5-star, threw dudes around at Southern Lab. He's had a little bit of an acclimation here. It's not to say you're not going to be a good player, but some guys physically, that is so hard to jump as an interior lineman, to go 18, to be taken on 20, 21, 22-year-old defensive linemen that are your size but have 4 years in a strength and conditioning program. Ed Orgeron wants a defensive line rotation. He wants to rotate 6 guys on his interior spots. And when you look at it, you know you got Tyler Shelvin, you know you got Neil Farrell, you know you got Glenn Logan, you know you got Apu Aika. Nelson Jenkins is there as well. That's 5. And if you throw in Roy and Guillory, that's 7 interior linemen. The most freakish defensive line that we've seen in recent memory in the SEC was that Bama defensive line a few years ago that rotated like 12, 14, 15 guys across all 4 spots, interior tackles and at defensive end. The point is, Ed Orgeron wants that. He wants freakishly talented athletic linemen that he can just, with a turnstile, like a revolving door, just rotate those guys in to just bang on those offensive linemen for 60 minutes and wreak havoc on them. He's basically telling you, these young dudes, they're going to play. We're not going to run 2, 3, rotate 3 or 4 guys the whole game and let them be dog tired. They're all going to play. That was, of the things that I was looking forward to hearing, that is at the front of the list. Because if you have your interior linemen that as freshmen are ready to go, that's a huge step. Now, Ed also talked about the offensive line. Can you please 4 here, Brain? And he broke a little news here that we all expected, but here you go.
Liam starting the center. Jason and guard. Now, they switch every once in a while, but I want to see them get the snaps. I want them to get the calls. There's at left tackle, Ed's at left guard, and Austin's at right tackle. And T-Bob, I'm telling you, man, these young freshman offensive linemen, you're going to like them. Huh. They're really athletic. They're really strong. Charles Turner is up to 280-something pounds right now. He came in at 230. Joe Evans at center. So we added depth. Guys are looking good. Very impressed with the offensive line. But, look, we got to put on the pads. We got to find out if Liam can block that nose tackle. I think he can, but we got to find it out.
So Liam Shanahan is starting at center, and Chasen Hines has moved to right guard. Remember, Hines started at guard for LSU a few years ago when Garrett Brumfield got hurt in that Auburn game. And Chasen Hines stepped in as a true freshman and held that down. Now, he was hurt last year, so we didn't see much of him. But if you're, like we just talked about, if you're a true freshman physically against Auburn, in a game against Auburn on the road, and you're replacing a 5th-year senior and physically you hold up, now you're in year 3 as a college athlete, Chasen Hines can play. The problem was he couldn't get the snap. Liam Shanahan could. He's been around college football for 4 years. Smart guy. Plug him in there. Let's see if you can make it work. And now you have another veteran guy at right guard. Now, all of a sudden, that offensive line, which lost 4 of its top 6 guys a year ago, left to right, you got Dare Rosenthal, who started for you in the non-conference last year. You got Ed Ingram, who's maybe your best offensive lineman. You got Liam Shanahan, who's an all-conference player at Harvard, now as a grad transfer. You got Chasen Hines, who was talented enough to start as a freshman, and Austin Deculus, who's your most veteran offensive lineman. That don't look like a bad group. And now behind it, you're looking at guys like Anthony Bradford, who Ed's raved about Cardell Thomas, who's a former 5-star offensive lineman. You heard him talk about some of the other guys there who are backing up, some of the freshmen they're excited about Charles Turner, who's up to 285 and is a true center. Now you got some depth there as well. It's exciting to look at. On August the 7th, they'll strap it on for real as fall camp begins. But this walkthrough period is giving us sort of a glimpse into what LSU is kind of going to look like. And as you begin to read what Ed Orgeron is saying as he speaks to the media and about his team, he's giving you a lot of indicators there of what he's looking for. And there's a lot of really exciting nuggets of what Coach O had to say today on that interview with Jordy and T-Bob. You can go listen to it at 1045ESPN.com or check it out on the OTB YouTube channel as well if you want to go watch that interview from this morning. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.